Can't see a raised hand symbol, so if somebody does, if you could shout up, that would be great.
Will do.
Okay, so the plan tonight is I'm going to kick off with to explain to people what the Ryedale Environmental Group are all about, and during that I'm going to actually, can people see this? Have I shared the screen?
Not yet. We're eagerly
No,
awaiting.
What an idiot. So how do I get at this then? Just bear with me. You thought I'd get used to this, wouldn't you? Right. Good. Right. Yeah, the idea is that I'll give a presentation on Reg, what we're about. And one of the things we like to do, as I'll explain, is to assist groups and individuals in their particular endeavours. And one particular important thing in the area is the community charter, and that'll be a good point to then pass the baton to Caroline, who will then give us a presentation on the community charter, followed by some questions and answers. And then it's very much an open forum. So what will happen is, if you particularly want to talk about a pet project or ask a question, put it in the chat function and we'll go through it, and hopefully everybody will have a chance to contribute. So
Peter, sorry, just to butt in, pop it on full screen mode for us, would you? So we can see the whole, the slideshow.
Could you do that for me? I'm not too sure what's going on here.
In your PowerPoint, you need to click from beginning, top left.
Yeah, no, I'm doing that.
Just above that, from beginning.
Oh, what an idiot. Yeah, okay, right. Sorry about that. Right. You wouldn't believe I'll be doing PowerPoint presentations for about 10 years, would you? Right. So who are we? Our objective is to enable environmental change across Ryedale. So what exactly does that mean? What we do is, there are various groups in the area, and through regular meetings, we encourage people to come to these, share ideas amongst each other, and act as a general brainstorming forum, if you like. We have, I mean, we're a fully fledged group. We've got our constitution, our bank account. We're capable, and we do make grant applications, which could be for Reg, or more likely to be for smaller organisations that don't have the facility to do that themselves. And as you must already know, we obviously have our Facebook page, our website, and this is an example of a public meeting. So an important part of our work is to encourage and help local groups, and they're listed here. They're all very varied, and there are some groups in this list who don't need Reg at all, in the sense that they're fully autonomous, they do their own thing, and there are other groups who don't have any kind of fixed constitution, and if they want money, they want a grant application, we can help them. But one thing they all have in common, these groups, is we are able to offer extra publicity for any of their particular projects. There are also, to give you examples, some groups have projects which are particular to them. There are other projects which you'll find most, if not all, the groups do. And if you look at the bottom right, litter picking, I mean, that's a kind of, it's great to get rid of plastic, to save wildlife, etc. And I think all the groups do that. The recycling centre in Kirby Misperton is something that is quite peculiar to our little group of 3 people. What we do there is we recycle waste that otherwise would go to landfill, because the local council isn't currently collecting them. There are also some added things we do. We give fabric to the Moors Bags project, which makes bags out of otherwise chucked material, all the way down to providing little mascara wands for the local hedgehog rescue, who use them to remove ticks, would you believe, from the spines. Now, there are other local initiatives that we like to support. Probably the best way of describing how Reg ideally functions is if you look at the Pickering food share scheme. This is nothing directly to do with Reg or even the Pickering group as such, but a group of people decided that they wanted to open a food share scheme where they get hold of food that would otherwise be thrown because it was too close to their sell-by date, and they basically give it free to people. But they got a venue, but what they needed was money to buy a fridge and so forth. So they came to Reg. We had some spare cash, which we donated to them. They opened a few months later, and I've forgotten the actual amounts now, but we're talking about literally tons of food that they've saved from landfill. It's going from strength to strength, and it's doing very well indeed. Now they are now helping us, because we have our own little project where we make apple juice out of windfall apples to raise money for local projects. They act as a collection point for the apples, and they're also acting as an outlet to sell the apple juice. So it's a great way of working together, just to give you another example. So hopefully that gives you a feel of the kind of things that we do. And as for the local projects and what the other groups get up to, then this will be part of the end of the session after Caroline's, where people can talk about things that are close to them. So top of the list, Caroline will be pleased to notice, is the Ryedale Community Charter. And one thing we do is we do outreach, we do try to publicise all these various projects, the website, Facebook page, etc. We also have a monthly slot in the Gazette and Herald. It's work in progress, but we are getting much better at publicity. And long may it continue. Now that's all I really wanted to say, except that this is the third day of this week of events. Please do go on the website after this, see if there are any other events that interest you, and register, and let other people know if you feel that it's of interest. So that's enough of me for the time being, and I'd like to pass you on to Caroline, who can tell us all about the community charter and then take a couple of questions. So thank you very much. So Caroline.
Thank you, Peter. Hello, my name is Caroline Davis. Thank you very much for the opportunity at the Ryedale Community Charter. I am going to share my screen because I have got a few slides to show you, so bear with me. Okay. One of my colleagues, Dave Adam, is also on the call tonight, so if we get the opportunity at the end, I will invite Dave to add his thoughts as well. So, first of all, what is the Ryedale Community Charter? It's been created by Ryedale communities to record what they most value, and that means both now but also in the future, and that is quite important. But we'll just take a step back first of all and actually cover what is a charter? So community charters are basically rights-based documents which identify the assets and aspirations for a local area that, importantly, residents have agreed that are fundamental to the present and the future of their community. There are charters and also similar documents called life plans in Scotland, across the UK, in St Ives, the River Dart, etc. So Ryedale isn't by any means the first, but it is quite a pioneering concept. So what is the Ryedale Community Charter? Well, we started a couple of years ago. There was a group of people from the UK Community Chartering Network, which is an overall umbrella organisation that, or network, shall I say, that connects all of us that are interested in chartering. And they came up to Ryedale and we had a meeting in Oswald Kirk Village Hall, I think it was. And those present were really inspired by a vision where residents could basically sit down with a blank sheet of paper and articulate their shared experience of living and working in this area. In essence, what they most love about Ryedale, and really importantly, what they want to see in the future and what they want to also hand on to future generations, not just from a heritage perspective, but positive changes that will enable Ryedale to continue to be a relevant, vibrant, thriving community for the people that live and work here. Our journey since that initial meeting continued with a series of community workshops, not surprisingly, in village halls. And those workshops enabled residents to identify both the tangible and intangible assets in their local area. And I'll come on to that in a moment. So the Charter, in essence, articulates what communities most value. It's got a very strong sense of place, and it's also a very ethical document for decision making, and it's constantly evolving. What I will actually do is give you a little look at our website. So I'm just flicking over now. Whoops. There we go. This is our website. This is www.ryde-charter.org.uk. We have a homepage. Straight away you can click on here and download the charter. And this is what the charter looks like. We've just recently finished the, what would you call it? The design of the document. So it looks a little better than the Word document that we had before. So you can read that at your leisure. It's not particularly long. So on the homepage, we've got the charter, we've got a few images of some of the workshops that we ran. And we've also got key organisations, how to get involved. You can also add your support to the charter by clicking this link here. And we do produce ad hoc newsletters. We sent out one last week. So you can register to receive our newsletters, and you can unsubscribe at any time, of course. And we also list here the events that we've got coming up. So very topically, tonight's event, our next meeting, and also the newsletter. So that's the charter. I will just go back to my slides. Right. Share. Okay, so what are intangible and tangible assets? Together, they form the cultural heritage and character of Ryedale as defined by the people who live here. And the kinds of things they include are the value that Ryedale communities place on the supportive and inclusive communities here. And we very much saw that in the response to COVID earlier this year. They also value communities where families can thrive, that the young can afford to live here and work here, and the elderly are cared for. Vibrant, strong communities, in short, and that sense of collaborating to create the future they want to see. Community facilities and amenities were very much valued as well. So local businesses, village shops, bakeries, markets. The history of the area was also identified, which is probably an obvious one, but also the farming, the spiritual, the culture. In short, Ryedale's got a lot. The access to quality air, land, water, and the natural environment, biodiversity and wildlife was very strongly articulated as well in the Charter. And that's where it very much links with the work that the Ryedale Environment Group and all the local groups that are on this core. And also the beautiful countryside that we have in Ryedale, and of course the Howardian Hills area of outstanding natural beauty as well. So what do Ryedale communities want? Well, they want to protect and improve the natural environment through careful stewardship, recognising that each of us has a part to play. So it's not just about somebody else doing all this, it is about recognising that we are empowered as well. What also came out of the community workshops, and increasingly actually, was about the acknowledgement about the extreme weather and the patterns of that we have experienced so far, and we know we are going to be living with for quite a while. So increasing our community's resilience to adapting to climate change was also a strong theme, and supporting more sustainable ways of living and being. Access to integrated public transport, we've had Helen's session earlier this afternoon, was also regarded as very important, and affordable, sustainable housing. So building in a way that enables people to afford to live and work here, but also reducing fuel poverty and all those other factors through having housing that is built with the best available techniques to reduce the costs as well. The other things that came out, which not necessarily environmental, but kind of linking, was the high value placed on local democracy and the high value placed on local participation in the planning process. And at that stage, the government hadn't even announced their controversial proposals to change the way that planning is envisaged and the impact on local decision making. So it's quite interesting actually. So in a very simple way, that is what Ryedale communities want. I think some of the things that we have helped with is that when people have concerns.
Caroline, sorry to butt in. There's a bit of interference, I think, is coming from your notes interfering with your microphone on your computer. So I'm guessing. So we're just getting a bit of a background noise now and again.
Oh, thank you for mentioning that, because I couldn't hear that.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. So what I was going on to say is that we did have one person who was looking at the condition of the roads in Ryedale, and one of the things that came out of that was actually how just simple things like how to report issues, how to engage with the authorities, and we all learned a lot in that journey. And I think that is a role that we very much found was valuable in working together on that, and that should help as well the local authorities in people knowing how to access their services and also report issues and also work with them to bring about the changes that communities want. So our story so far, we've produced a charter, which 3 small words, but that did take quite a while. We've created a website, Facebook and Twitter account, and we've also got Instagram as well. So I think what's also important to mention is that the charter continues to evolve. It's not something that's we've now created and it's in aspect. We are reviewing that every 12 months, so it continues to evolve. And we are also connecting in with other organisations across Ryedale that are interested in the same issues. A number of organisations have been in touch with us, villagers, parish councils, community interest groups, organisations and societies. And pre-COVID, we were having face-to-face meetings, and we are resuming some of those now using Zoom and other software. We have also been invited to provide input to the North Yorkshire Rural Commission and the UK Government's Rural Stakeholder Forum. We were recently approached by the UN Harmony with Nature programme, who are very interested in the Charter and are actually going to share our Charter on their website that they're creating at the moment. And we do have regular meetings with community charter groups across the UK. And then there's also a list of there which you can read yourself of areas where we've collaborated locally with other groups and also groups within our community charter that have been interested in those issues. Okay, so this is what Ryedale Community Voices, as I call them, have said. And I think that the first one really stood out for me when I read through all these. I mean, you know, they're all very nice things to say about the Charter, but it's important that decision makers know what the community value. And I think sometimes people feel as though, you know, it's not worth bothering or trying or engaging because they feel as though their voices aren't heard. And I think if we can help in some way to enable those voices to be heard, people have said that local democracy is really important to them. And I think if we can do that and find ways to connect people, then that for me is fabulous. So that one quote stands out for me. And then this is what the feedback that we've had from the other groups across the UK that are involved in doing different things, but in a similar way with the sort of chartering approach. Words in here that stood out. The wording in the Charter is really robust. Well, it would be. We're in Yorkshire. We call a spade a spade. And that it's a living and breathing document as well. So that was nice that people who haven't been involved with this journey have actually said these things about the Charter too. So how can the Charter, the Ryedale Environment Group and local groups support one another? Well, I think hopefully it's obvious that the environment is a very key aspect of the Community Charter, and that concept of careful stewardship and a strong commitment to sustainable development as well, and increasing our resilience with climate change and environmental damage, etc. So I think we've just got to keep talking to one another, make connections, and that's just an ongoing process, really. Okay, and now how you can contact us. We've seen our website. We also have a dedicated email address, and you can also add your support on our website and receive our newsletter too. So that's the end of the slide presentation. I don't know if Dave, Adam wants to add anything to what I've said. Dave, you need to unmute.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Yeah, if I could just say a few words, Caroline. Okay, as all of you will no doubt gather from what Caroline has said and what she's shown you, there's an awful lot of work gone in up to this point from the beginning of the project to now, not least by Caroline herself. And it all started, as she said, from local residents' meetings, and it's what is in the Charter is all coming from what people said that they wanted, what was important to them, what they valued. So although Ryedale is just a small, largely rural part of North Yorkshire, in terms of the Charter that is now there for all to see, we really are a pioneer and a giant, if you like. I don't think that's overstating it either, in the sense of what we've produced as a Charter, and hopefully along with the other areas of the country that are doing their own Charter, hopefully this will grow and more areas will be encouraged to take up their own Charter. The democratic point that Caroline made, I would underline, because I see, and we see, this charter as giving a voice to the inhabitants of the area, which we believe will grow and strengthen it in its effectiveness over time. And as I said the other day when we had a presentation, it's so much dependent on, like so many things in life, as many people as possible who see and read the charter and who are enthused by it, to spread the word, to talk to other people, to get involved wherever you can. And by so doing, the charter will gain in strength, as I say, and become more effective, and it will be that democratic voice, and it will speak for the people. And again, Caroline mentioned we've had one of our members do quite a bit of work on road improvements, and as Caroline said again, you know, we've learned in that process, and I think that will be replicated in lots of different areas of work that will come to pass. We're hoping that people within Ryedale, once this becomes more widely known, this charter becomes more widely known, people will use it to get involved and take up causes that are dear to their hearts, with the help and assistance of the charter. So yeah, just to finish off my few words, I can't emphasize enough how important it is that as many people as possible get involved and spread the word. Hopefully you're all impressed by what you've seen and heard so far, and you'll go away from tonight and do some of that spreading. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. So has anybody any questions? Sometimes with these things, you need a bit of time to reflect. So you have got our email address, and our details are on the website as well. So please contact us and we will come back to you as well.
I did have a question. I was just desperately trying to unmute myself without success. It seems to me that the community charter could be strengthened even more if you had more towns and villages giving an input into it. I mean, for instance, I know that 10 years ago in Kirby Misperton, they did a very similar exercise, although I think in fairness, they asked leading questions rather than giving people a blank piece of paper. But presumably, did you have plans to approach towns and villages to get more input to strengthen its impact?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it is early days. Yeah, this has been going a couple of years, and it started out with 6 villages, but then people have kind of approached us. So I'd just say, come and talk to us, and yeah, we'll take it from there, really. So yeah, early days, but just so encouraging, and so much potential there is what I would say.
Can I just say a couple of further things about that? I mean, before lockdown, we were going out to parish councils and different organisations and giving presentations to them to try and get people to sign up. I don't think I mentioned it earlier on, but again, the validity that the charter has will increase the more people that sign up to it. I don't think I mentioned that before. So again, if you like what you hear, then I would urge you, once this evening's Zoom call is over, to go on and to log on and to sign up to show your support for it. The more people we can get, the better it will be.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Peter?
Yeah, yes, it does. Thank you very much. Yeah. Does anybody else have, I've got another question, but has anybody else got anything they'd like to ask Caroline or David? Okay, I mean, the question I was going to ask is a fairly obvious one. There's obviously some synergy between Reg and the Charter. Is there anything else you'd like Reg to do for you that we're currently not doing?
I think heightening awareness tonight, I mean, this has been a fantastic opportunity to speak about the Charter, so maybe more opportunities to, we just need to keep talking. I think those connections are there. It's just very obvious. So yeah, let's just keep talking.
Thank you.
I think any involvement that Reg have with the community, you obviously will talk about Reg and what you do. Well, it would be great if you could also slip in a word or two for the Charter as well.
I think you've seen our the presentation I've done, which is, it's still work in progress, but I think whatever happens to the presentation, it will certainly include mentions to the Charter without a doubt. And when we're all free from COVID, then I think both organisations can actually do a lot more than we're doing at the moment.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So I don't know how other people feel. We can either take a short break or we can launch straight into the next part of the session, which is really over to everybody. Anybody that wants to contribute ideas, tell us about their projects, this is your opportunity. Is there a consensus? Shall we plough on, or shall we give ourselves a couple of minutes? I'll take that as we'll carry on if people are happy with that. Right. Now, first of all, if you want to butt in and say something, you can use the chat function. If you want to, we'll go through it and ask you to make a contribution. But already we've got a couple of people who I know have got some interesting input. One of them is Frank Colenso from Project Purple in Hovingham. So would you like to do your thing?
Thanks very much, Peter. Good evening, everybody. I'm delighted to be able to share with you our journey so far. Project Purple was formed in July 2017 by 6 residents from Hovingham. In order for the project to be successful, we knew it needed to get the engagement of our community. So Hovingham, having carried out a community survey 10 years prior, we decided to use this vehicle to update the survey and include questions about climate change. Hovingham has 180 households and 460 residents. So we put together a household survey as well as a separate resident survey. Household questions including how old is your house? What fuel do you use for heating and cooking? To simple things like do you compost? And the personal questionnaire included how do you travel to work? What type of fuel does your vehicle use? To how concerned are you about climate change? We had a colossal 84% response. Residents felt strongly the need to reduce the village's carbon footprint. 68% agreed that they were concerned about climate change, with a further 22 not sure or wanted to know more. The questionnaire gave the project the mandate that we needed in order to engage further with the community about climate change. Whilst this process took us 12 months, it's been invaluable. With the escalating climate crisis, we've subsequently set ourselves a community target to be carbon neutral in the 2030s. So some may ask, why have we put so much pressure on ourselves? Well, if you look at where the UK CO2 emissions are coming from by sector, business and industry, power, natural resources, transport and housing, well, transport represents 24% and housing 13%. And if you combine these two, rural communities like ours represent approximately 5% of the UK's Paris climate change target. Local communities have to be involved in the solution. We cannot leave it to government and businesses alone. And government will and are naturally focused on the urban areas where they'll get the biggest return. So how are we doing? We have 3 areas of focus: recycling, reusing, and repairing more stuff. energy efficiency, identifying ways to reduce our individual carbon footprint demand in our homes and transport, and identifying and supporting our renewable energy resources. So we've engaged with our major stakeholders, including the Parish Council and the Hovingham Estate, and secured their support. We've started efforts in recycling, reusing and repairing more stuff. We initiated this with the recycling awareness and posting tips on the newsletter, simple as that. We're working with RDC to upgrade our community recycling centre and have already installed new signage. For the second year, we've have 50 households bringing their Christmas trees for shredding and mulching. And with the support of Kirby Moorside Repair Cafe and 11 fantastic local fixers and supporters, we've set up our own Hovingham Repair Cafe, which is affiliated to the 1,700 repair cafes across Europe. We've had our first successful cafe in March, and unfortunately the rest is COVID history, which has prevented us having the next 3. So we're now planning a series of 4 cafes in 2021. 8 members of the community stepped forward to share their tools and equipment on our virtual shed platform, and this year we hope to develop that plan so it'll be open for customers in the new year. On energy reduction, with the data from the questionnaire, we recognise that 40 houses do not have access to off-street parking to charge an electric vehicle. With the support of the Parish Council, RDC, Hovingham Village Hall and the Office of Low Emission Vehicles, we're able to install a dual 32-amp vehicle charging point for both visitors and residents. Since March, we're seeing an increase in the usage and uptake, which is great. The other key area is to reduce our energy demand in housing. And David Davis, who's on the call tonight and heavily involved in the project at Reg, is the project lead. 45% of Hovingham housing stock is over 120 years old, 25% are listed, 75% use oil or wood for central heating, and 39% of the residents, not surprisingly, said they'd welcome a free energy assessment. During 2021, we will support residents and provide a point of reference for grants and suppliers. For this, for those who need to insulate, double glaze, replace fossil fuel heating and cooking, or simply move to renewable electricity suppliers. There are a number of residents who have already made these changes, and we've started to collate these stories and put them on the website for others to share their experience. And our third leg, developing our own renewable energy source. Again, based on the analysis from our community survey and the transition to carbon neutral, Hovingham will require 3 times as much electricity as it uses today. So through the Rural Community Energy Fund, we successfully applied for a grant to carry out a community energy project. Together with very experienced renewable energy supporter, we worked with landowners to install a 2-megawatt solar farm. Unfortunately, like a lot of rural communities, the capacity in Hovingham will only allow us to connect 190 kilowatts, 10% of our needs. We continue to have this under review and will at some point maximize this limited potential. So what about the next immediate steps? Due to COVID, many things have come to a slowdown or even closed. Unfortunately, climate change is not waiting for COVID to end. So we're planning a pilot virtual community meeting through Zoom on the 7th of November, very much like this one this evening. We're fully signed up with 42 residents to join the 2-hour meeting, and we're seeking the community's feedback on the priorities and next steps. Communication is key. With Caroline Davis's support, as you've seen her with the Charter website, fantastic technical support. We've invested in upgrading our website too, so that residents are easily have access to the knowledge, services and advice they need to become carbon neutral. So for anyone who's thinking about engaging the community, I would simply say, go and get out there. The first steps are always the hardest. We've been encouraged by groups like Kirby Moorside Environmental Group, Reg Environmental Group, Zero Carbon Yorkshire, Yorkshire Community Energy, and several others. The climate needs all of our small steps because it's communities like ours that will make the difference. And finally, you cannot do things without funding. And we've had funding in the past from Hovingham Action Group, donations, and running the Hovingham Market Cafe, which again is closed due to COVID. So thanks to North Yorkshire's Stronger Communities Restore and Recover grant, we've been able to secure our 2021 program. So many thanks to them. And if there are any questions, I'm sure I'm happy to answer them, but I'm sure David and Caroline can do that too. Back over to you, Peter.
Right, thank you. Right, I've got one question. It's very impressive. I mean, one thing that's really struck me in Hovingham is the excellent response rate you get. You were talking about all the people that are going to take part in this Zoom conference. I can only talk from the context of Kirby Misperton, where I'm the chairman of the parish council, and we're only just quorate because of threats of violence, really. And how you get people involved, is it because just the mix of people you've got in Hovingham, or have you done something specific to get this sort of level of involvement?
I think that's a really, really important question, Peter, and it's something that really took us a lot of time to get our heads around at the very beginning, because here we were, 6 of us, you know, really enthusiastic about, you know, getting the message across about climate change and the climate crisis that we're in right now. But we resisted that temptation and took a step back and prepared this community questionnaire. And without doing that, we wouldn't have had the mandate that we've got right now. So gradually over time, for example, you know, with the Repair Cafe, and I have to say, Kirby Moorside group were fantastic in helping us with that. That enabled us to reach out to 20 or 30 more people, yeah, who joined the cafe, were fixers and supporters. And you know, the 42 people that are coming know us, yeah, know David and Caroline, know the other members of the team, and have agreed to come on board, you know, and we genuinely do want their feedback, no matter what that is, on whatever scale, because we can only move forward by consensus, yeah. So yeah, slowly catch a monkey. I don't know, maybe it's the wrong word to you, you know. You just got to take your time, I think, and be patient and walk you through. David, Caroline, you may want to speak to that.
Yeah, I think with the community survey, to get the response rate that we did take a lot of effort, and it was going around door knocking, actually talking to people when you were handing over the questionnaire for them to fill in, and then agreeing a day and time that would be convenient to go back and collect that, and then doing that. And so, yeah, there was a lot of walking the streets that made that happen. So it's not that Hovingham is any different to anywhere else. It isn't. We have got quite a range of views and different opinions about things in this village. But that survey, it was well worth the shoe leather and the time and effort that was taken.
Yeah, to Caroline's point, I mean, we had 20 people deliver that questionnaire to the 180 houses. So people from each individual street, so they knew their neighbours, yeah. And we sat down with that 20 people, and you know, we went through the storyline, yeah. You know, they had a specific target to reach in order to, you know, get those surveys back, and they did. You know, it was a personal touch, wasn't it, Caroline?
It was, definitely, yeah. Does that help?
Sorry, I think the added validity was given to that by what was done back in, I don't know, was it 2010 when they originally did the first village survey. That
Yeah.
paved the way, and it was really a case of looking for where our various Venn diagrams cross over into that common ground, because ultimately we all want to go in the same direction when it comes to things around climate change, irrespective of whether it's, you know, me, the grumpy so-and-so on the street, or whether it's somebody else, you know.
Yeah, we didn't ram climate change down people's throat in that survey. I mean, you know, there was 2 or 3 sections, 1.5, 2 sections of that was climate change. The rest was about, you know, genuinely we needed to know about, you know, people's houses and what their structure is and what energy they're using and all that sort of stuff, and how they get to work, you know, and what concerns they have, what things they want for the future. Repair Cafe was one of those things that came out of the community survey. Caroline, going back to the market, the market came out of the previous survey 10 years beforehand.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. So all we're doing is delivering really what the community is asking for. So hence the community meeting, the Zoom meeting that we're having on the 7th, is because, you know, 68% of people are concerned about it and 22% want to know more. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. I just sort of quickly add that we had an additional complication in Kirby Misperton because of the fracking business. I mean, I think it's fair to say that the vast majority of people were against fracking, but there was an extremely bitter divide between people who agreed with the protests and people that didn't. I mean, on a personal level, I was the one spouting about the right to protest rather than the actual content of the protest. And things almost got physical at some points. And things are now starting to heal. What certainly has helped is running things like a Christmas fair and things like that had never happened before. And some people are actually talking to me again and this sort of thing. So I suppose you're right. It's a matter of time.
And Peter, you know, Project Purple, to be very clear, is not a political. It's not campaigning. Yeah.
Oh no.
We're not doing any of that at all.
No.
We're just you know, sharing experiences and you know, moving forward that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much indeed. Appreciate it. Now we've already got Natalie Griffiths on the list to talk about Thornton-le-Dale, and well, look forward very much to what you have to say.
Thank you, Peter. Good evening, everybody. Just a few words from me, really, to inform you on what Thornton-le-Dale Village Hub is all about and the type of project work that we do, that you may have ideas about, you may have opinions about, you may have some know some people who can come along and contribute to help out with those things. Back in 2018, there were 2 local residents, Denise Rajab and Roger Sharples, who decided that they wanted to start up a range of community projects that would both enhance our environment in Thornton-le-Dale and provide social activities as well for local residents. They started off by getting a group of people together, and they started off by simply planting daffodils around the village, so that when you entered the village, when you left the village, it created a pleasant environment for the residents, and also, you know, helped to enhance the environment generally with respect to there being more flowers around. That developed further into litter picking and street cleaning groups who painted railings, maintained the railings, and a lot of effort was put in around the pond as well, because that being a very natural area that they wanted to develop it. So the pond was cleared, there was a lot of effort put into that. There was a nature trail was created, sculptures were put up, bug hotels to promote children as well as they come to, or visitors to Thornton-le-Dale to have a look, to find out more. A pond dip as well, so that they could dip into the pond, see what wildlife was in there, and just to promote the whole thing that, you know, our natural environment is so important to us, and that we can make the most of that. It's all about making the most of what we've already got and enhancing that. So there are a team who regularly maintain the pond, also plant more flowers around the pond, flowers that don't have to be, that are more natural, that are wildflowers that don't have to be necessarily maintained, that aren't false, that are natural to the area as well. There's a floating duck house. Many of you have been to Thornton Ryedale, you may have spotted the floating duck house. It has had ducks in it that have used it. But yeah, some interesting features like that we have got in Thornton Ryedale to enhance where we are. That then led, through the involvement in those projects and the social activities as well that we promote for local residents, led to us getting involved in Yorkshire in Bloom. And one of the entries for Yorkshire in Bloom, well, our entry, sorry, for Yorkshire in Bloom actually won the Gold Award for 2019. You may have noticed if you driven through Thornton Ryedale and so on, the planters and the hang baskets, and that alongside those community projects, everyone coming together to work in the village, and the social activities that we do, that's what enabled us to get that Gold Award, and then led to us representing Large Village in the Britain in Bloom competition. And what's great about that is it does then allow you to open up some funding streams, and our entry for 2020 had a bee-friendly focus on it. So the aim of that was to do activities which promoted bees into the area. So every resident, as a part of that in Thornton Ryedale, got given a small packet of wildflower seeds to plant in their garden to attract more bees to the area, to attract bees to their garden, and so to improve the environment in that way. And again, there was a lot of effort put into ensuring that the environment looked pretty, that there were plants, that there were lots of displays around, that everybody came together and worked on. So that really is just like an overview of some of the little things that we've done that both enhance Thornton Ryedale as an area and enhance our environment generally. There's lots more I think that we can do to contribute to the type of work that Reg are doing, and and mirror some of the activities that are going on in Hoviam, which is great. But yes, we're doing our little bit to just try and make sure the community is brought together, and to also provide those opportunities for those people in our society to get involved in some social activities as well. So yeah, that's us at Thornton Ryedale Village Hub.
Thank you very much. I'll kick off with one question. I mean, you're now able to tap into various funding streams, but of course nothing succeeds better than success. So when you first of all kicked off and were doing these schemes, how did you initially fund them?
Well, it was Denise and Roger who started the hub. I actually wasn't involved in the hub until around last year, but I know that when they first kicked off, it was through going to the council, it was through looking and searching through websites to find opportunities for grants ultimately, and they found that there were lots of, if you were willing to go to the effort of putting the paperwork and the evidence and getting the volunteer hours together, then there are actually opportunities to apply for grants for exactly the type of projects which the hub does. And as I said, as we've then had more success and we've become more publicised, and the more that you do, obviously the more that you can get yourselves out there and your name out there, then the more people that recognise you and then are willing to support. And we do things to fundraise as well, such as ourselves, such as coffee mornings. So clearly at the moment that's not something which we can do much of, but we have done coffee mornings, residents baking cakes and having cake stalls. And then Roger annually has done a spin ride. So that was, I think, the first time that Tour de Yorkshire came through, and they came through Thornton Ryedale, and we had a spin ride where local residents went on the bikes and they were sponsored with how far they would go in the time, and that raised thousands of pounds. It was brilliant. And then for the second year he did it, we actually had one of the local pubs who one of the landlords, a part of the hub management committee, and we had a barbecue and stuff at the back there and a band and so on. And so through doing activities like that, which not only raised funding that we desperately need to enable these projects to happen, just to pay for things like the high-vis vests and litter picking, picker-uppers and bin bags and the basic equipment that you need. Not only do they pay for that, but also they themselves bring the community together. So it's through activities and fundraising activities like that that the hub was started, really.
Great, thank you very much. So open to questions from anybody else? To Natalie?
a quick question, or maybe an observation, because the model you've got is a bit different, isn't it, Natalie? You've got a village hub, which is doing all kinds of things, but actually quite a lot that's related to the environment. And then you've got, you know, Pickering Environment Group and Kirby Misperton Group and whatever, that are groups that are specifically for environmental issues, which is then a little bit different. So I guess it doesn't really matter, but I'm just observing the two different models there, which I guess we need to think about what that means and what's the best way. Is there a best way, or how do we?
I think that I don't think the hub didn't start off being an environmental group, really. It was about, you know, bringing the community together and doing social activities and all, but improving the environment. But I think that through doing that, you can't help but then complement the work of things like Reg. It's, you know, and as time went on, and you can see from the Bee Friendly project, when you're looking for things which are it's not just about enhancing our environment that we look at, it's about enhancing you know, our world and climate change and so on. And I think that needs to more and more come into the agenda, and I think it has done, but it's just been a natural progression rather than intentionally. So but it certainly is more that we can do on that front, and it's great to be involved with yourselves now.
So maybe that's the key thing. At least we're connecting the dots here, because I mean it wouldn't make any sense to have a Thorntondale environment group, probably, would it, somehow, because then that's just too complicated. So as long as the communication is there, and then maybe that's the answer. But just the interesting difference between the approaches, and both clearly work, so that's all that matters.
I mean, I think one thing that clearly does work is in Kirby Moorside, where they've created, I think, a bit of a monster in the local environmental group. I don't know if Helen could just tell us a bit how it started and how it developed, if that's okay with you, Helen.
Yeah. Hi everybody. It started even back before I was involved with a Renaissance Town initiative that had come through the District Council, I think. And they started off just by giving out low energy light bulbs, which are now sort of outdated because there's even more low energy things around now. But we've tried all sorts of different things through the time, and one of the most popular events has been the Give a Take Days. It should have been today, but of course we've had to cancel this year. Hope we've done it twice a year for 7 years now. And you should see the queue down the marketplace first thing on the Sunday morning. When we do, it's just amazing. We've done things with work with the school, and we were sort of the start of the sort of helped to get the Ryedale Cycle Forum going, helped to get Moorsbus and the Northern Ryedale Public Transport supported them, and also we've done the thermal imaging project, and then the Kirby Fruit project started through us. But it's always been when individual people have suddenly had an idea, and we've been able to support them just by having the organisation there to sort of, a bit like Reg is doing now, having that support thing so people can have a bit of structure behind them and get going with something. And we've struggled a bit in the lockdown because we've got quite an old group, sort of age-wise, and people haven't found Zoom very easy, and sort of haven't found it very easy to sort of carry on doing things through lockdown. So it's great to have to now be sort of part of the Reg, the wider group, and be able to share, such as the repair cafe. It's absolutely brilliant that that's taken off in Hovingham as well, and hopefully it will happen in other places. The other key thing I wanted to mention is that we're part of the Transition Town movement, which is international, which is about sustainability and lowering two things: lowering carbon footprint, but also long-term sustainability of communities. I can see common threads, right through all the different groups here in that. But the Transition Town thing is what drives Kirby Moorside, and you can Google that, Transition Town, and find out more about that national and international movement. So those that, like Paul was just saying, we've got the groups are slightly different, and we come together on certain things. But what maybe makes Kirby Moorside different is the transition town thing behind us. Thanks.
Thank you. I mean, the transition town concept immediately made me think of the Hovingham group, actually, where you seem to be very much on the same wavelength. Is that a fair comment?
I think just butting in there, I think it's interesting, and I think the Project Purple start of talking to people. I think we started more on the campaigning side, and then sort of toned down to try and involve more people, and they started sort of more gently involving lots of people and getting that mandate. And I think we've come, you know, from different angles, and it's really good to see that. You know, there's different angles. I think we probably can, you know, we obviously can learn from each other on the way that's happens and continues to happen as we look to sort of further develop our group. We'll certainly be sort of talking to the, you know, sort of Project Purple and other groups around about what works and things like that.
No, that's absolutely right. Yeah, sorry, Helen, I cut across you. No, I think that's right. I mean, you know, you know, having been involved with the campaigning for 3 years before because of all the other things that have been going on in the area, then, you know, the temptation was to just jump in there. But, you know, coming back to the earlier points, yeah, we did take a step back, and I think it was worthwhile, at least. We had, because we don't have, I think, and particularly as time has gone on now, you know, climate change, you know, is mainstream. You know, you can have a conversation about that at any point in time during the day with anybody, because it's happening around us, you know, whereas, you know, 3 years ago it wasn't.
I think, Caroline, did you want to say something?
It was only a small thing, really, but it just makes me appreciate how valuable it is when we all start talking about things. So certainly some of the community charters in Devon, I know Totnes is a transition town, and that's very important to them as well. So it's just, yeah, it's just incredible. It's fascinating, actually. Thank you.
I should just mention there are two other groups in the area that I know of, which is Malton, Norton and Pickering. Now, Helen mentioned the Bring and Take days. This really was a great way for Pickering to get going. It's just a pity that as soon as things were looking very promising, COVID happened, and a lot of them do seem to be quite averse to Zoom. But Pickering were extremely successful with their first Bring and Take, I have to say, because if any of you know the Memorial Hall in Pickering, it was absolutely jam-packed with things. And at the end of the day, one small transit van was able to take away the junk, if you like, to a landfill. I mean, it really was, it gave them a real buzz and really helped to get the, you know, the group going. Yeah. Sorry, Helen, I think you had your...
I was just going to say that to Peter that we're not doing landfill anymore, that it's all going to the incinerator now, isn't it? And Kirby Moorside Environment Group did organise a trip to 2 trips to the incinerator facility that the County Council run. It's towards Harrogate area, isn't it? And I wasn't able to go, but they found it really interesting. And for any other groups who want to see what's happening to the waste now, from this area, then I'd strongly recommend you can go on the incineration, the County Council incineration, I can't remember what it's called, but they've got a website. You can book on either individually or as groups, and they give you a tour around and show you what happens to all the different things that we throw out, and what they do take, what they don't take. And there's a bit of spin there, obviously, because there's quite a carbon footprint to the incinerator, and things should be recycled rather than incinerated, but it's really useful background information. So I kept wanting to say to Peter, no, it's not landfill anymore. We've got to know what's going on, and then it just helped to inform our recycling and the things we want to put our time into.
I stand corrected. Thank you very much for that. Funnily enough, one thing which COVID has rather stymied at the moment was the idea of going on trips places. You've given one example, and another one which we're quite keen on doing at some point is St Nick's in York, which is a community which is very much green based, has lots of ideas for wildlife and so forth. And perhaps we should be thinking more of those kind of events when we're allowed to.
Peter, just coming back to the point about the Bring and Take Day, my wife Kim and I went over to Pickering for that event to see whether or not we could translate it over here. And yes, we can is the answer. But what was interesting is that the support from RDC for that, because I think they actually picked up all the stuff at the end of it and took it to I think it's near North Allerton somewhere, the incinerator place. But so there's a lot of cooperation around that, and so for any community who wanted to do that when COVID's gone or whatever, I think it's a great thing to do, really great thing to do.
I should just say that I can some people I could see on the screen, so I could see if you've got your hands up. There are others who I can't see, so please unmute yourself and shout up if you want to contribute or if you have any questions.
Sorry, no, go on, Caroline.
I was just going to say there was a group of us that did go to Allerton Waste Recovery Park and had a tour. Looking on the website, looks like they're doing virtual tours at the moment, so that might be of interest.
Sounds like something for the website.
Yeah, we should add that on. Yeah. I was going to say, because a couple of comments from Community First Yorkshire. So I've got Colleen here and I guess Claire as well, maybe. Is it a good time, do you think, Peter, to get perhaps a couple of words from Colleen or Claire to tell us more about that?
If they're happy to. So yeah, Colleen, if you'd like to add something.
Yes, I can do, Peter. I don't know how many of you are aware of Community First Yorkshire. I know a good number of you are. Community First Yorkshire is the infrastructure organisation to support the voluntary sector and communities across the whole of North Yorkshire. So we support community groups and also the larger voluntary sector organisations and things around governance and funding. So we have a regular newsletter that goes out every week. And we also have a funding newsletter, so it might be worth subscribing to both of the newsletters to hear what's going on across the county. We also support parish councils. We can also support you in Ryedale if you are part of a parish council and you want to do a local action plan, so a parish plan. We can support you in that as well. So that might be something you want to do locally. I'll do a slightly different plug. It's not necessarily environmental as such, but I'm working on a different project on the loneliness campaign. And we're about to roll out a toolkit to create more cohesive communities. And I wonder if one way of creating more cohesive and better connected communities is actually to do environmental projects together. So greening your local village, working with a local a space within your village to create a community garden, maybe considering a swap area or a swap day. If you'd like to consider doing something along those lines, you're more than welcome to join one of our workshops that I'm putting on in the next few weeks, where we'll be looking at the toolkit. So that's maybe something to consider.
I know with yeah, two sort of observations really. I'm still learning about grant applications, but one thing that's pretty obvious is that if you can prove community cohesion, then you're halfway there. The more you can do that, the easier it is to access funds, in my very limited experience. I can actually give a concrete example along the lines you just gave, actually. Our enormous group in Co-Mispin of 3 people, we decided to make a herb garden. And yeah, we had all kinds of people coming out of the closet offering pots and plants, this, that and the other. And then somebody unrelated to us out of the blue said, well, why don't we create one of these never-ending caterpillars? So you have to get hold of pebbles to make the caterpillar longer. So we've got this sort of caterpillar getting longer and longer, and just sort of stupid things like that. You know, they do suddenly get people contributing who you wouldn't normally think would.
Absolutely, and somewhere in the chat, if you want to scroll up, is a video by Shani Graham. It's a TEDx talk. She's got quite an interesting history, but she talks about how her and her husband had a dream to make their street more sustainable, and they started a sustainable project on their street, and how in the end it brought the entire community together and made the whole community look after each other and keep an eye on each other, and created that real sense of community togetherness. It's a really inspiring video. I'd thoroughly recommend watching it.
Thank you. Actually, Paul, I'd like to, I know on the chat there's a lot of interesting looking links, and I think, will they be lost when we log off, or can you record them in some way to pass them on?
Yeah, yes and no. So anybody, if you go to the chat box, see the 3 dots, you can save it. So if you just click that, it'll save normally, if you're on Windows, just into Documents and then Zoom.
Oh.
I don't think it'll save them as hyperlinks, so you'll have to copy the text and paste it in, but that's better than nothing anyway. So yeah, just the 3 little dots in the chat box, save chat, see that?
Well, I might have been the only person, but I had no idea about that.
No, I'm sure you're not. No. It's a good feature. So yeah, and it saves it automatically. So we've got the chat from all the sessions, Peter. So.
Oh, great stuff. Yeah. So, does anybody else have any sort of contributions they'd like to make? I don't want to put Helen on the spot again, but I know you've got your finger in many an environmental pie. I don't know if you've got anything extra in particular you'd like to mention.
I'm spending a lot of time at the moment on the Path for Everyone project, which paths to link up communities so people can walk, cycle, use wheelchairs from one place to another, and cut the carbon footprint by sort of more active travel. It's taking a lot of time and energy, which means I'm not able to do.
Looks like Helen's broadband has just clocked off for the. Oh, you may be back, Helen. We lost you there a second, but I think you're back.
Yeah. Hopefully, each. I mean, Kirby Moorside to Helmsley is one of the projects we're working on. Hoving to Moulton. Hopefully, we get slightly bigger teams on each one, and then we can sort of. I always found working in a sort of a small team is just a really nice way to work. Not too big, not too small, just so you can keep communicating and talking and really back each other up. So hopefully get slightly bigger teams on each one, just a little bit, so we share the load out. And also on the, so I'm going to be talking a little bit about that on the I've got a shared session on Thursday with David Bealey from Big Bear Bikes, and also thermal imaging project. Me and Tink between us have done well over 100 sort of houses with a thermal imaging camera. We're not able to do it this year because of having to shield for my mum and Tink being quite, you know, elderly herself. But hopefully we'll be able to get back to it, because usually this time of year we'll be going out sort of twice a week and doing sort of probably about 4 houses a week, you know, and people find that really useful. So hopefully we'll get back to that. But because I'm not doing that, I've got more time to do cycle things. So, you know, it's good. You know, different things come and go, don't they? And also certainly, I mean, I've had nice earlier today to be able to share quite a lot about Mosbus, Northern Ryedale Public Transport Group, walk and ride ideas, and I know that has been recorded thanks to Paul at the presentation earlier on, but we'd like to share some more of the background to how to get, you know, to improve public transport and to get more people on public transport. Transport sharing is so important, and hopefully we can do that, you know, working through Reg as well to get, you know, just to get more people involved in that.
Great, thank you. Frank's got his hand up.
Just really, Helen, to, you know, I know you and I have spoken a little bit about the cycleway, how important that is, and I know you put a heavy burden on your shoulder trying to drive that through with the group, or through with councils, landowners, and all the rest of it. But it is such an important project for the future well-being of the people in the community, and the impact it will have long term on, you know, the reducing the cost in the national health, because just people will be more active and more healthier because of having a cycle track between here and Moulton and Pickering, and, you know, these things are just huge, and you know, wish you every success with that.
Thank you, Frank.
With the thermal camera project, Helen, would you say there's too much demand for you to cope with, or that where I'm coming from with this is, would it be worthwhile other groups started projects such as yours?
I think it probably would, yeah. I mean, one thing that has been done in other transition towns, which we haven't managed to do, is to link thermal imaging project with practical, actual, like another project linked it with a youth training scheme where they were teaching, and well, two things: a youth training scheme to go in and help people do the installation and the things that needed doing. So they linked it with a training for much younger people, and bringing people on, and also practical workshops for DIY, giving people a chance to go. So we always feel we've done half the job by helping people find out what the problems are, but not everyone can afford to then go on and do anything about it. So it would be really good to be able to link the thermal imaging project with a practical, some practical options and opportunities for people to then be able to do such work on their homes, because not everyone can afford that. And our most our most difficult moments have been, you know, when we've been into people who obviously could do with that sort of help, and it's not really there. So all you can do is help them sort of stay in one room, keep one room warm, but that's not really enough, you know. I mean, Tink's put a lot of effort into a 3-page PDF thing, which is now put on the Reg website, a sort of how we do it, because it is quite a difficult, sensitive thing going into people's homes, and you know, we've sort of developed how we do that to try and reassure people and make them feel safe about strangers coming to their homes. And people are always very uncertain when they first meet us, but we sort of, you know, it quickly warms up. So if anyone's thinking of doing that sort of project, I would strongly say I will look at what Tink's written down, because she's done it in a lovely way, sort of described all the different things that we've just sort of got into the swing of doing, but actually I think are quite important. And I mean, we got the thermal imaging camera with an Awards for All lottery grant, and so yeah, it would be good if other people did the same, I think, in other communities. I think we have done some. We've been to Thornton-le-Dale, we've been to Norton, we've been to Moulton, we've been to Helmsley, we've been to Hoving, and we've done a few, you know, but we always feel that we can't really get round, and we don't really advertise ourselves in other places because it just would be too much of a burden for us to be able to cope with that. So yes, Peter, I think it could easily be expanded with the help, you know, by duplicating or doing something similar.
Thank you. I know this was brought up, I think, last year at some point about it possibly being a reg project, but yeah, to be continued. So thanks very much. I think, Paul, Colleen's got a hand up.
Can I just suggest something? Helen, with the thermal imaging camera, Kate Owen, the Yorkshire Energy Doctor, and myself are looking at developing some community champion sessions. So half of the session will be about talking about energy use, switching to green energy, how to make your home a little bit more energy efficient, and half of it will be about the more sort of social action element of it. It would be great if we could combine that with a thermal imaging something. So if somebody joins one of those sessions and says, I'm interested in doing an audit in my local village, we could potentially offer that.
Yeah. In normal times, I'd say, really, it's just that at the moment, neither me or Tink are able to do that.
No.
But absolutely support what, you know, the idea of that. And if anybody else wanted to, I'll have to speak to Tink about this, but if anybody else wanted to use the camera, you know, as part of that process, I mean, it is expensive. We are sort of cautious with it, but it shouldn't be sitting there doing nothing. So if someone had the sort of could inspire confidence in us that they were going to sort of use it properly and be careful, then it might be possible to use that.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think, Paul, we're getting close to the end, aren't we? I think we've got a few minutes left. I would actually just, first of all, I'd actually like to thank Paul very much, because I think it's your day job doing Zooming, and you've taken up most of your Sunday on behalf of these events. So I think you do deserve special thanks for.
Pleasure.
This.
No, fine. I had the morning off, so that's okay.
Yeah. And finally, any thoughts about how the week's going so far? I mean, we're not halfway through yet, but any constructive thoughts or observations? Nope.
I'd just say trying to increase the number of people on the sessions. It still would be good to have more. I've did try to do quite a bit of promotion on the session I was doing today, but it's hard work, isn't it? And then there must be other networks out there where we can still tell people about the things that we're doing. There must be other people out there who would enjoy taking part.
It is hard work, and I think I'm not alone. I mean, I'm looking, you wouldn't know this, but I'm looking at Dave Davis at the moment. Other people that put an awful lot of work into tweeting and this, that, and the other. And I think when the week's over, part of the post-mortem, well, that's probably the wrong word, but part of the analysis afterwards will be, you know, what should we have been doing to get more people involved?
And if you see the chat, we needed a Claire, so it looks like she's just the person we need, and so it's still not too late. So yeah, any tips you've got, Claire? So
yeah, that's great, Paul. Sorry, I've had myself on mute because I've had my daughter with me. I have been trying to entertain her and listening at the same time. But I'll have a look at the promotion when I'm back in the office. But if you wanted to drop me an email, so I've got your contact details, and we can go over it and have a chat.
Fabulous. That's great. Thanks, Claire.
I think this has been a very informative construction session. I hope other people agree with me. Does anybody wish to add anything at the end at all?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind just saying that there's only a population of 57,000 people or thereabouts in Ryedale. And I think you have to be realistic in terms of how many we can get to some of the meetings. I knew nothing about tweeting 6 days ago, and I probably know a little bit more now. But if anybody has any hints, tips, or even better, lists of Twitter handles or hashtags that they think are going to be real killer blows in this sort of market, please let me know.
Yeah, well, yeah, quite. I mean, I think the one lesson, perhaps we should have started the publicity probably a week or two earlier, but hindsight's a terrific thing.
Yeah, well, the first 2 tweets that were done, I think around the 11th, they got about 4,000 impressions, whatever that means in tweet world. So, you know, yeah, I'd agree with you on that. I think it probably should have started earlier.
Anyway, whatever people normally do on a Sunday evening, this is your big chance to to get on with it. So I'm going to carry on with my bottle of wine, and I wish you all a very happy evening.
Good night, everybody.
So, yeah,
Okay.
good
Thanks
night,
very
everybody.
much.
Thanks very
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Okay,
Bye.
Spreading the word.
Caroline,
Bye.
cheers, bye.
Bye.